This was a video that I didn't think that I was gonna have to make, but with the recent news and all of that jazz that's been all of the bombshells that have been dropped on Twitter, it seems like I'm gonna actually have to talk about it. Now, there was something that went down last night, and according to a friend of mine, I shouldn't be bringing this up, but I feel like I need to bring this up because, well, this is one of the most important sites to anybody who reads manga, if we're being real. We're gonna be discussing the importance of unlicensed manga and why sites like the Dex matter so much, bro. Why they matter so much. And let's face it, right? Let's face it. If you're a manga fan today, and this is not about the majority, actually, you know what? Yeah, it probably is the majority, because like I'm in the minority and I've been a manga fan since I was a child, and that was it was during the prehistoric times, right? But if you're a manga fan today, chances are you did not start off with an official translation. And to be fair, a lot of us did not. A lot of us found forums back in the day, AOL chat rooms, Yahoo forums. That's where I got my start at as far as manga goes. And it's same with anime, right? Like that's where we watch like anime and stuff like that. But a lot of newer fans probably came across a Raw page on Tumblr, right? Probably came across some Raws on Tumblr and was like, oh, that's insane. Or someone in a forum just dropped a random link and was like, yo, you need to read this manga. Yo, this shit's sick. I translated it myself. And like I said, that's the story for millions of fans. And it's because of unlicensed manga and platforms like the Dex, right? We have them to thank. And it's not gonna be just going over like why these unofficial corners of the internet are important. No, we're gonna talk about how they're essential, right? How they're essential to the global manga community. And we're gonna start off by, and I made sure that I took notes, right? I made sure that I got bullet points to talk about. And one of the ones we're gonna start with is it being a gateway to global manga culture, right? So everybody knows that Japan is the birthplace of manga. But for the longest time, the only way to experience it legally was to be fluent in Japanese and living in Japan. A lot of us, right? The rest of the world, like majority, a lot of us in the early 2000s, there was a big wall. Big culture wall. We could only admire from afar. We can only see panels and be like, yo, that's sick. And that was until unlicensed scanlation groups started popping up out of the blue. And that's what I mean by like the Yahoo forums, the AOL chat rooms, like all of those. You would find random groups to talk about anime and manga with. And you had people that were in these groups stepping up, and not for profit, right? And not to exploit the work, but because they loved the series and wanted others to experience them, they translated that shit themselves and started putting it out. And that's how we came across like the old Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, old Dragon Ball stuff. Like, sure, there were some official release to an extent, but overall, the only way we were able to watch and read these things was because of them, right? And it's these grassroots translation groups that made it possible, right? They made it possible for manga to explode outside of Japan years before official publishers was like, hey man, maybe we should start putting these out overseas and we can make a little more money. Japan didn't understand in the early 2000s, and to be fair, they still don't, but Japan didn't understand the fact that they could reach a wider audience and get so much more out of what they create without being exploited. Now we have to talk about the revolution, right? And again, we're just gonna call it the Dex revolution, bro. Because unlike any other site that was flooded with pop-ups and ads that would literally give you a virus, right? They would literally give you a virus. And obviously, big shout out to like OG Kiss Anime, because that was also one of the GOATs, right? They are heroes. The Dex, Kiss Anime, they're heroes. They did something rare, right? They did something rare. And it's the fact that they respected both the fans and the creators. No paywall, just access, bro. And these types of sites became a hub, not just for English readers, but you got French, Spanish, Indonesian, Portuguese, and dozens more, bro. It created a unified, like a global hub where fans could read, discuss, and share. And I want y'all to think about that. How many platforms prioritize both access and ethics in a world dominated by profit margins, bro? It's rare. It's rare as hell. And this is probably, for me, the most important part, right? This is the most important part. If you've ever read a series that wasn't on Viz or Manga Plus or K Manga or what other like official sites exist out there. Like if you've ever read a series that wasn't on these sites, chances are you found them there. There's a lot of like manga that will never make it out of Japan. Never make it out of Japan. And it's thanks to these translation groups and scanlation groups that we're able to find stories that truly resonate with us. And the fact that Viz and Jump only get things that will like impact them immediately in Japan, because again, I've said this before, Japan does not think outside of Japan. They are essentially Japan-centric. If it wasn't for sites like these, I wouldn't even be here. Because if it wasn't for these unofficial translators and stuff like that, I would have never found Gachi, which would have never really got me to make manga videos. And it's like, I found a lot of gems that recently got anime, right? Recently. And if it wasn't for them, I would have even never knew these existed. So sites like this and unofficial translation groups made things that are not just a platform, right? They're discovery engines. It gives these small, I'm talking about like super small time mangaka global reach without the bottleneck of corporate licensing, which is something that we're going to talk about. And here's the truth, right? Here's the truth. The official industry can't keep up. They can't, because licensing is slow. It's a slow and expensive process. And for every one title, right? Just think about it like this. And I want you, and I may or may not expand on this because this is like a stream of consciousness, right? For every one title, there's like 100 that either sit in limbo or never get published. And then even think about it like this. By the time a series finally drops in the West, the hype might have died. Or worse, fans probably already moved on. Because, like, think about it. I want y'all to think about from the time that Gachi Akata got officially translated, there was, like, I want to say, like, 50 or 60 chapters already out. I think we were, like, 2 or 3 arcs deep. And I think that that is a detriment on both sides. Now, there are sites where you get it same day as Japan, but the pool of officially translated manga is minuscule, as opposed to the open sea of unofficial translated manga that's probably more up our alley than the ones that you're trying to give us. And that's what I mean by like unlicensed platforms filling that time gap. The immediacy is crucial in the age of the internet, I should say, where a fandom is driven by momentum and word of mouth, as opposed to, oh, there's this official one coming out. Granted, it's already been out in Japan for 3 years. Now you guys get to read it. It's like, no one's gonna give a fuck by that time. Which leads us into probably one of the more important and poignant points that I want to touch on. And I'm glad I wrote this down before I forgot, right? It's about the art of preservation and archiving, because there are a lot of times that older manga either get discontinued, lost in a legal limbo, or are published in magazines that don't even exist anymore. And it's thanks to sites like the Dex and these scanlation sites that keep those titles alive in our hearts, bro. Like, sure, we can always remember like specific moments from the manga, but like, what if I want to go reread one of these older, like extremely older manga that don't exist on other sites? It's insane how these things work, right? And one thing I do want to cover is the fact that it's not about access. It's not just about access. It's about the cultural preservation. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine if we only save the top 10 manga of each year. What happens to the rest? They're gone. They're erased, bro. Like, you will never see them again. And just think about it like this, right? Scanlators and sites like the Dex are unofficial archives. And without them, we'd lose an entire layer of manga history. It just won't exist. But while talking about that, we also have to talk about the ethical gray area. And I'm not gonna pretend like it's all black and white, right? Not gonna do that, because yes, reading unlicensed manga is technically piracy. And yes, we should always support the official release when it becomes available, which is something that I said earlier in the video. But that is the key point of this, right? when it becomes available. Fans shouldn't be guilted, right? We should not be guilted for wanting to read something that's not even legally accessible in our country. Most scanlating groups want to support the mangaka. There's a lot of them, like I said, they do it for free. They do it for free because they want the exposure. They want this manga to be exposed to a global audience. And a lot of us buy the Japanese volumes. We buy the Japanese volumes, we buy the Japanese merch, and the official chapters when given a chance. But that is few and far between of what it should be. But what happens when we lose these spaces? What happens when these DMCAs get issued? If platforms like this disappear, the effects would be absolutely devastating. Not just for fans, but for global manga awareness. Small manga will no longer exist. They'll fade into obscurity. They're gone. A lot of people who wanted to be mangaka won't even want to do it anymore because nobody is reading their stuff. Discussions would not happen as much anymore. I mean, granted, discussions don't happen that much anyways because Twitter exists and trying to discuss something on there is almost impossible. And then publishers would have less data on what fans actually give a fuck about. You know what I'm saying? So the irony is sites like the Dex often do the work that publishers should be doing. They check for engagement, they test for interest, they build hype, and they help manga go viral. In conclusion, right? Unlicensed manga and platforms like the Dex have shaped the global manga scene more than most people realize. They're a necessary bridge between Japanese creators and worldwide fans. So if you've ever read a series before it was officially out, if you've ever fallen in love with a story that no publisher even knew existed, go to your local scanlation group Discord, go to, even if you know a scanlator personally, thank that scanlator, thank that group, and support the official releases, right? Yes, you should support the official releases. That is, we do it anyway because we love manga, but never forget the community that made your favorite series accessible in the first place. And for me, big shout out to PO2. A lot of people may not fuck with you like that, but trust me, I fuck with you like that because y'all brought me a lot of things that I give a fuck about. So shout out to y'all. If you've ever discovered a gem on the Dex, or if you've ever discovered a gem anywhere, bro, drop it in the comments. Let's share these unsung treasures and thank these unsung heroes, these mangaka, whom a lot of people may or may not know about. But anyways, that'll do it for me, man. If y'all enjoyed this video, make sure y'all go down below, hit the link in the description or the red subscribe button, the big ass red subscribe button underneath the video. Help your boy reach 20K. Help your boy reach 50K. Help your boy reach 100K. Let's get that plaque, bro. I talk about this plaque all the time, but let's put in work and get that plaque. I don't want to be stuck in the 10K range anymore. I wanna grow way further than even I think is possible. Big shout out to the homies on Patreon, by the way. Luke P and SJ Sam 98. Big shout out to y'all. A lot of this stuff wouldn't be possible without you guys. So I have another update for the Gachiakata retrospective. I will be dropping that on my Patreon. I'll be dropping that. So make sure y'all look out for that. And yeah, y'all have a good morning, afternoon, or night, wherever y'all are. I'm DomoSenpai, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.